Hello, this
welcome
is
to
the
the
first
third of
unit
three
in
tutorials
CIS
on
3048
Hello World
C-sharp
applications in
programming.
Visual Studio
This is
in
a
C#.
two-part course. Each course
This one we're going
is
to create
worth
an
2
ASP
credits,
page.
and they go together fairly
Active
well.
server
We'll
pages
from
are
one to
web
the other.
pages with C# code.
We'll be looking at
Looking
C#
other code, but
and
we'll be looking at
programming.
C# code.
We'll focus both
running
on Windows
on the
Forms
web
and
page.
ASP.
We'll
Active server
using
pages,
this sort of
type of web
application a lot
page.
along with Windows
Our
Forms.
text we'll be using is beginning ASP.NET
So
4.5
here's kind of the code we're going to be going towards, but first
we'll be using this text, and I'll be supplementing it with
I got
some
Visual
resources
Studio up and
for
running. I'm going to File,
Windows
New
Forms.
Project.
And we'll create a lot of applications
Now,
both in
make
Windows
sure we have
Forms
Visual
and
Studio
in Active Server
Visual
pages
C#
and web
chosen.
pages.
But rather than going to Windows, I'm
there's no
going to go to Web.
PowerPoints that go along
And
with
I'm
this
going to,
text, so I will
start
just walk
with
you
just
through the
this,
electronic
empty
version of
web
this text
application.
a little
Up
bit
here's my starting
at the start of each chapter.
and again, give it a
one
name
thing I
as
would like to
before,
point out
so
is
call it
in the
Unit
introduction
1.
is the code samples. So in the introduction, you have a link to the
ASP.
code samples. You can go here and download all
And
the
again,
code samples.
these are
Starting with
being,
chapter 3, there are some
stored
more
in these
complicated
locations. I don't have to
examples, and
change
they get
any
even
of
more
this stuff.
complicated. So I would suggest if you have a chance, go to this website and download the code examples for this book.
Now, it doesn't start with a blank web page or
will
anything
save you,
like that.
typing
so
while
we need to
in
create
later
a
on.
new web page.
Okay, let's start
Also, if your
with,
toolbox is being shown, we're not going
the
to be
first
using the
chapter, the big
toolbox if
picture.
it's not auto hiding.
We'll be using
Remember
.NET.
to click on the pin and have it go away.
Here.
And so now we're going to create
And
a new
Microsoft Visual
object
Studio
within
for
our
creating
project. Go. We're
.NET
gonna do
applications
under project,
and we'll be using
add
the
new
C#
item.
languages. There are basically 2 languages that are pretty well
And there's
interchangeable,
web
C#
form
and Visual
here, and
Basic.
HTML
they can be
pages
very
start
similar
with an
features.
HTML page.
We'll be just using
use that
C#
very much
in this
but
place.
this time we'll just
Talks a
try
little bit about
one
web
to try
page
it out so you can see
creation,
that. So
goes over the
that
basics of
HTML
page.
HTML.
You
I'm
should
just
know
gonna have it say HTML
basic
page 1
HTML
for
if you
now,
don't
that's fine.
already. Things
Add
like
it.
tags,
So it creates an
tags,
HTML
end
page,
tags,
and I can see it over
start
here in my
tags,
Solution
end tags,
Explorer.
and how to read
Here are my
kind
different
of
files, and
basic
here's my
HTML.
HTML page 1.
I'll provide some resources, some links to
when I click
resources
on that,
on
it's
learning
opened up
basic
here.
HTML. So if you haven't learned it, you should
If
spend
you
an
don't know
hour or 2
HTML,
reviewing
I'll
the
provide a
basics of
couple links to
HTML
simple
at
introductions.
the
We're
start
not
of
going
this
to do a
class.
whole lot into HTML, but we do need you
We
to
won't
know
be
the
doing
basics.
anything complicated.
Things
HTML.
like HTML is made
but
up
you
of
should
tags.
be
So
able
we
to
have a
read
head
through basic
tag
page
that
that
starts
the
the
web
web
page
page
closing
they
tag
have laid
which
out.
is the same
And
as
they also
the
talk
starting
about a
tag,
web
but has a
form. Here we
slash in
will
it.
be
You
doing
can do
web
other things
forms
a little bit.
I know this is
So
a
they
body
use a
tag,
form
and this is the
tag,
end of a body
and then
tag.
they have.
So I'm going to go within our body. I'm going to check
enter a couple
boxes
spaces
here
and a submit.
and I'm going to type in hello.
Again, we won't be looking always at
world.
the HTML. Sometimes we'll be using a
Display that.
visual designer to lay out these types of
I can
forms
also put some
but again,
tags
you should
around
be
here,
just familiar enough
just
so
to
you
be
can
proper
read
HTML.
through
I'm going to
this
put a
and
paragraph
understand
tag.
how that.
So again, tags
can create a form like this. A web
are
page.
within a greater than and less than, and P is paragraph.
When I type
Talk
a little bit about
automatically puts
ASP.NET
the end
active
tag
server
there, so
pages
I'm going
are
to
a version of
actually
web
move this Hello
pages,
World, copy
and they
paste that up
generally
here.
run on the
So
server
I've got
side.
the
So that
body,
means they
start
run
of a
on
paragraph, end
the
of a paragraph,
server
end of the body
rather than
here.
a client side. You can do
Looks
client
good,
side
and then inside
programming,
that just
but
says
more
Hello
often
World.
client side programming is done with
That's my
JavaScript
little program that I've entered in.
code.
Now
which
I can
runs
run this, and it's
on the client. So on your web browser,
so
my
my
default
quick
overview on
Chrome,
server
so it's gonna
side
run
web
this, but it could run
application.
Firefox
If you're at
or
a
PC,
Internet Explorer or whatever,
if you're
you have
at your
installed,
PC and you're
doesn't
viewing a
matter,
web
whatever you want
page,
to run. So I'm going to hit request
run,
that web
and it'll
page
run.
to a server, a
Open this
web
up as a
server,
web
and that
page.
web server sends the
So here's
HTML
my
document
web
to us,
browser,
and
it's
it's
running it
displayed
on
on
localhost.
our
So it's just running it from my
browser
local machine here.
And now
The
with
web page is really simple,
active
just
server
hello, it says
pages,
Hello World. Very simple.
so I'm going to
we
close
will
this web browser.
But
run
my
the web
application
page
is still
request
running.
will
I
have
can see that
code
because
associated with
I've
that.
got
The code will
some
run
call
on the
stacks,
server,
some debug
and then
stuff
that
down
server
here.
will
We'll
create
run
a
it
web.
later.
And
I don't see the properties of
the
Solution Explorer
So
here.
all the
It
code
reminds
is
me
run
I'm
on
running
the
the
server.
program.
That's why we
And
call it server
so I'm going to
side.
hit the stop debugging
programming
here to stop the
gives us nice
program.
access. So when we
and
have to
then I'm
access
back in
large
edit mode,
databases
so
and
I
stuff,
can
that's
edit
all
my
done on
program.
server side.
So that was an
most of
HTML
the
page.
big websites
We're also
are at
going to do the
everything
similar
from
thing,
Facebook
but with
and
an
Amazon
active server
to,
and ASP,
like a
forms
Gmail
page.
account.
So again,
all
under
those
project,
that access
add new
data
item.
on a server, those are all
And this
run
time I'm
with
going to
server side
create a web form.
and that's what we'll be using.
And
now
we can leave
there
them
are
in the same
also
web form one.
client-side
Notice that it has
programs or
ASP
scripting you can do, like JavaScript JavaScript.
So
and there
.ASPX.
we
So
grab a
that's
web page from
HTML
the
pages are
server,
just
which some
HTML
embed
and
code in
ASP
it, and then we
pages.
run that.
Active
So
server
client
pages
side
are
is more like
ASPX.
and simple
This,
error checking
will
or
denote
simple
a special
things,
type of
interface,
page, and it'll be run differently and loaded
examples
differently
that
than an
run
HTML
on
page.
the web page to make
So
it
I want
look
that extension
and appear different.
and hit add. And so now on my
Again, this isn't
Explorer, I
a
can see
web
I've
design
got
course
my
or whatever, so we
HTML
won't
page,
be
and I've got
talking
my
too much more in
web
detail
form
about the
ASP,
server
so I
side
can
or
have these two.
client-side
They're both
application.
open here. If for some reason I were to close them, I can click on the little X there.
Now
I
the
can come
.NET
over to
framework,
Solution
just a
Explorer
quick
and open them
overview
up
on
again.
something called Common Language
there's,
Runtime,
the web form, the
CLR.
ASPX
So there
form,
are a couple
and here's
different
my HTML
languages that you can
So I want to
program
go
in,
to
but
the
the
web
main two
form
are C#
.aspx
and
page.
Visual Basic.
My ASP page that a lot of people
and
use
just look
for
at it
creating
again.
this sort of
It's in
Windows app
HTML,
but now I can stick in some
Windows
C#
Forms.
code in here. I'm to start with,
and
I'm
basic
just going to paste in the
structure
same code we have before. I'm going to grab this
that we'll be
Hello
working
World
with
code.
is
And
again,
it's a little more
we'll be looking
complicated
at
here.
web
I have a
forms
body,
and
start,
Windows
and end
forms.
tag. I have a form,
we'll be
start,
creating some
and
ASP
end tag.
pages. They'll be called
And I
web
have a
forms
div,
or ASP
start
pages,
and
and
end
some
tag.
Windows
Within
forms.
all those
the Windows
tags,
forms will be
I'm gonna put
applications that
my,
will run on Windows,
paragraph
and web forms will be
tags here.
running
So
on
pasting
the
kind of
actual
formatting.
website, and these will be the server side program. So we'll be creating a lot of our
So,
applications
something
in
like
both, so we can see both.
We'll be also
so within my
accessing
div,
some of these
other
begin and
libraries
end,
in
I'm gonna say
particular,
hello
we'll be using
world.
the ADO.NET.
Now I can run this.
So ASP is active
And
server
I'll run it
pages,
just like
and
an
that's a type
HTML
of
page,
web
open it up in
page.
my web browser.
ADO
It is
just data
HTML.
access.
It's going to take a little
and
longer
we'll be
because
using
it's
that
going
to
to run on
access different databases
a little
on
bit
our
on
server.
of code
We
on
won't
the
be getting
server, but
to
here's
that
my little world
until the
showing
second
up
part of this course, the CIS 3049.
close that
part of
and
that
hit
course.
stop to get out of debugging.
And we'll talk about some of these other libraries.
pages. I have to hit stop to get out of debugging.
So
So
the common
now I'm going
runtime
to,
library. Let's
add
talk a
some
little bit
code
about that.
to this.
So in order to do that,
These
our
ASP
programs
page
are
a little more
written in
closely.
like C#, and
Now, I
then they're
noticed over in the
compiled down
Solution
to
Explorer that
an
my
intermediate
HTML page
language,
is just a
which is
normal
the
simple page. It
Microsoft
doesn't
calls
have
the
anything
intermediate
to
language,
expand next to it.
IL.
But
ASP
so
page
here's a little
has
diagram
a little
that
triangle
shows
here
what's
that I
kind
can
of going
expand.
on.
We
And
will write source
every
code in
ASP
C#.
page has
It'll be
a couple
compiled
of
into an
things
intermediate
associated
language,
with it. It has the original
and then that
ASP
will
page,
run.
but it also has a C#
That's basically our
page associated
executable,
with it and a designer page.
but
associated
it
with it.
is somewhat
So
machine
I'm only going to
independent
want
in
to
the
look
fact
right
that
now at the
when we
C#
actually then run that on a
page. So I'm gonna
machine,
double-click
that
on
intermediate
and open
language
that up.
is
So,
compiled again.
So again,
It's hard
so
to
that's this web form
say
one
if this is
.aspx
compiled or
LCS.
not. So we
And this is
compile
the
down to
code
one
that's
level
running
language,
when
and
this
then we
code-
use a
when
just-in-time
this page is,
compiler when we
created
run
and
the
run.
program to convert
And
it
there's
into the native
a,
language of our
class called
machine.
web form here, and there's one
This
simple
is
method
not
called page load.
dissimilar
We'll look at
to
other
what
methods later on, but just
Java
a page load
does,
and this method
this
is
sort of
automatically run
framework.
when the
So
page is
what
loaded
that does
up.
is create executables that
So
are
I'm just going to go
somewhat
here and paste some code,
flexible
and I'm just
in
gonna
what
display
applications
hello
they will
world
run on the screen
So
again.
just
All I
so
want you to be familiar with
a
here
simple
is
way to
just,
do that is just with
intermediate
a
language
command
is
called
this language
response
which
write.
our source code
I'm
is
just gonna
compiled
type
to, and then
response
we have
write.
this common language
and if you-
runtime CLR,
it's capital
which is
R and
the
capital
system
W,
that
but if you don't, it
runs the
should
actual programs
autocorrect
and then
those
on.
for you. So capital R in response, capital W for write.
So that's a
and then
basic
parentheses,
overview.
and then what
You
we
can
want to
read through
display,
this
and I'm just
description
gonna
and
say
say
hello world again.
We'll be using Visual
in
Studio
quotes,
to do a lot of our work.
and then
I'll be
an
using
end
Visual
parenthesis,
Studio
and then a
2012. There are a
semicolon to
couple
wrap up
different
that
versions.
statement.
There's
So
an
that's our
Express
one C#
version,
statement.
which is
And
free
it
to
will be
everyone.
run
But
automatically
you
on
also,
the
as
page
I
load,
said,
because
as a
it's in
student,
this page
we're
load
part of the
method, and the
active,
page load method is
the
called
Microsoft
automatically when the
Academic
page is
Alliance,
loaded.
and
Okay,
through
so
that
now I'm
we
gonna
have
run
access,
this
free access for
again.
students to the more advanced ones. So you can,
I
we
should
can
see
be running
two
things
hello
like Visual Studio
worlds.
Professional.
First, the
and be
HTML
doing
hello
that.
world, and then
So I'll make sure I
the
have
hello
pointers to
world
resources
again
for
at the
downloading
web page.
and
It's
interesting
interesting
to
to
note
note
that
again,
you're
this is
welcome
my
to just
first
run the
hello
Express
world,
version. That's
and
fine
then my
for what we're
second
doing.
hello
But
world, the
you can also
ASP
download
page
this
is actually
full
run
Visual
ahead
Studio
of that because
Professional.
this is run as the page is.
So that's a quick
is loaded,
introduction,
so
and the
it
next
writes
chapter
that
is going
all
to
right
talk
away,
about
and
the
then it
C#
actually
language, and that'll
displays
be
the text
in Unit
on
2.
the web page itself. But here's my two hello worlds.
Okay, stop. And again, I can save these projects. I often just click Save All to save all these different files because I have a couple different files that I've edited and opened up. So make sure you save those files. And again, one thing we'll watch is we created a simple HTML page, but more often we'll be creating these ASP pages in these forms and working with the C# file that's associated with each ASP page. So that wraps up this tutorial.